Welcome to this masterclass on pro bono best practice. I'm Sarah Morton-Ramwell. I'm the Global Pro Bono and Corporate Responsibility Partner at Ashurst. Ashurst is a leading international commercial law firm operating in 15 countries. My background has always been working in pro bono practices and corporate responsibility programs. However, before that I did work as a fee earner, and before that I started my career in gender rights, reproductive rights and human rights, working in two leading not-for-profits. Today we're going to look at strategies for building your pro bono practice and how to improve pro bono performance. Pro bono is defined slightly differently at each firm and at each jurisdiction, but at its heart it's really free legal services, and these services can be legal advice, legal research, legal education, policy reform. At Ashurst we have our own pro bono criteria, which says pro bono is legal services free of charge to marginalised and disadvantaged people of limited means, to the not-for-profits and social enterprises that support those people, and matters of broad community or public concern. It's important that pro bono is considered a standalone legal practice in firms rather than just a siloed program, because it really shows how important it is to the values of that firm. And important elements are the infrastructure, the treatment of the work, and leadership support. So when it comes to the infrastructure of a pro bono practice, it should be led by a pro bono partner. I'm very fortunate at Ashurst. I am working full-time in pro bono. In some firms that might not be possible. There might be a commercial partner who does this as part of their role. Therefore, it is really important to have pro bono managers as well as other lawyers working full-time in the pro bono practice. I report directly to our managing partner. I regularly report to our board and executive committee, and it's essential that all practices are run in that way. In relation to the treatment of pro bono under a pro bono practice, it should be treated exactly the same as all other legal practices in terms of business intake, conflicts, the way that the matters are organised and run, in terms of the same expectations of quality and supervision, the same prioritisation as commercial work once a matter's been taken on. In terms of the treatment of pro bono work, it's really important that the same credit goes for pro bono work as it would commercial work, so that it goes to the bonus hours targets and is uncapped, and also that pro bono performance is an assessment criteria when it comes to performance criteria for lawyers at the end of the year. With the leadership, it's really important that they promote pro bono as a standalone legal practice, and that they see the value in it as it gives their lawyers the chance to fulfil their professional obligations to really make the law available to all, particularly those who are marginalised and disadvantaged. It's important that they lead from the top and really lead by example by taking on pro bono work themselves and encouraging partners and all lawyers to take part. Best practice requires the setting of internal targets and reporting both internally and externally against those targets. It's important internally to decide what your firm is aiming towards, have your board sign off on that target and have it contained within your pro bono policy. At Ashurst, we have a target of 52 pro bono hours per lawyer per year. We measure that on a country level, not at a global level, because we want all our lawyers and all our officers really contributing equally. But then we can break it down and have a look at how are certain departments performing, and lawyers versus associates or partners, how are they hitting that 52-hour target. I'm very proud that in Australia we hit that last year, and we were doing over 53 hours on average for all our lawyers. And it's important that that target really is reaching. We chose that target because we saw it as using 1 hour a week for pro bono. While it doesn't quite work like that in practice, we felt that that was a good starting point for a target. External targets are also very important, and they exist in a number of jurisdictions. They are often slightly different to your internal target, and I don't see that as a problem. They are a measure of where pro bono is in that jurisdiction at that time, and they often will change in time. For example, in Australia we have 35-hour target. In the UK, currently under the collaborative plan, there's a 25-hour target. In the US, the Pro Bono Institute has a challenge of 3 or 5% of billable time spent on pro bono. So it's important to take part in those. It's important to galvanise support at a local level and to report and be transparent in how you're performing as a firm. It's really important for pro bono practices to review every year what they're doing, how their policy and objectives are being achieved. Pro bono policies should have not only a pro bono criteria, but really clear information about what is a qualifying client, qualifying fee earner, and qualifying matter. That ensures that you can be consistent and transparent across all your jurisdictions and across all the matters that you either take on or not take on. When you review your policy, and you should update it as you go every year, you should look at what objectives you've set and how you're measuring against those objectives. But it's also important to make sure that you include your strategy, internal targets. You might want to talk about external targets in that policy and perhaps the history of the pro bono practice as well. When you do your review, it's important to not just look at your policy, but really ask yourself questions like, are we giving the opportunities our lawyers want? Are we really reaching areas of unmet legal need? Are we making best use of our lawyers' commercial skills, our legal network, and the resources we can bring to pro bono? It's also important when you do these reviews to look at what metrics you are currently measuring. I believe that what is measured is valued. And so while many firms look at average hours per lawyer, total hours of pro bono work, and percentage rates, you might want to consider other metrics that really help you see if you're on point for your strategy and achieving your objectives. For example, if you have focus areas, what percentage of time is being spent on each focus area? What percentage of time is going to individual pro bono clients versus organisational clients? You might want to look at how many referrals you take in, how many you weren't able to take, and why. It really just helps you really analyse what's going on and make sure that you're constantly improving as a practice. It's really important as your pro bono practice grows and develops that you decide on areas of focus. These could be specific client groups, or perhaps it might be social justice areas. You can do this at a global level and a regional level, and again, maybe even at a country-specific level. But it just really helps give focus to the program in terms of where do you prioritise budget? When referrals come in, which ones will you prioritise? It helps you to build reputations in certain areas so that more referrals in those areas come through. It helps you develop secondary specialisations in time, and secondary specialisations are where lawyers do work outside of their day-to-day commercial skills, but through training and supervision from experts, often external experts, they can do that type of work. So it really adds depth to your pro bono practice. When deciding the areas of practice that you really want to focus on, there's a number of questions you need to consider both internally and externally. Internally, what are the opportunities your lawyers really want to take part in? What are the commercial skills that you really add that could add value to social justice? So for example, at Ashurst, we have very strong capabilities in finance. So we do a lot of impact investing pro bono work. What is your network looking like in terms of, is it a regional network, a national network, an international network? And how does that overlap with social justice issues? For example, in Asia, we're working on a focus of anti-trafficking, anti-slavery, and migrant workers' rights. We've done that because those are social justice issues that really resonate locally, but these are issues that cut across borders. And as we have a number of offices, we really think we can add value to cross-border work in this space. And to really build our expertise, we now have a secondment with Justice Without Borders, and they work in Jakarta, Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo. We have offices in each of those areas, and they work on supporting migrant workers who've suffered in host countries, have come back to home countries, and want to seek redress. In addition to your network, consider, does your firm have any other additional resources that could really assist pro bono? For example, at Ashurst, we have an office in Glasgow, which is a support office filled with legal analysts who really support us in our commercial work. But actually, their skill sets are very well suited to certain pro bono matters as well. So they do large document reviews, which have really helped them in the pro bono work we do for death row support work done remotely from the UK for clients in the US. As your pro bono practice develops, it will be important that each year you get your own budget to really help develop that practice. There are lots of considerations of what needs to go into that budget. I would suggest you need to consider things like salaries. It is important to invest in a pro bono team that has a pro bono manager or managers to really work day to day to develop that program, and that really will have a dramatic effect on the growth of your pro bono practice and pro bono performance at your firm. Additionally, if you have secondments, it's important to consider, is the pro bono budget paying for that, or perhaps the practice group budget's paying for that? Other areas that you might want to consider budgeting for is memberships. There are certainly free memberships like Trust Law, which is a brokerage which provides free opportunities around the globe. But as your pro bono practice develops, you might want to invest in more memberships in different jurisdictions. You will want to invest in training, particularly if you have secondary specialisations, but more generally so that your lawyers are really giving the best advice. Also, always consider disbursements. You might want to pay for them, you might want to recover them, but you need to consider them when you are budgeting. Pro bono at Ashurst, like many firms, is not mandatory. It's something we very much encourage our lawyers to do. As such, we need to influence and persuade them to get involved, to give up their time in an already busy schedule. Communication is really important, and you need to use this as a tool to really get people involved. At Ashurst, we use a variety of communications tools, from articles to blogs to webinars and videos. We also have social media and generally presentations to our lawyers to encourage them to get involved. It's really important to present to your lawyers on a regular basis, and if you have multiple offices, to travel to those offices wherever you can to talk to them about pro bono, about the strategy, about targets and expectations, but also about opportunities and about what they're interested in getting involved in. It's important to target your messaging depending on the audience. Partners and more senior members of the firm may be more interested in the business case for pro bono, for example, whereas junior lawyers might be more interested in training and skills development. It might be useful in your communication team in your firm to find someone who might volunteer to be the point person for pro bono. We found that to be very successful, as you can develop a relationship with them, they get a very deep understanding of the practice as it develops over time, and that will really improve your communication strategy. Porter and Kramer created the concept of shared value, which essentially is creating policies and procedures that improve the competitiveness of an organisation in a commercial sense, while simultaneously improving social or environmental conditions. One of the ways that they suggest you can do this is by reconceiving products and services. So in the context of a law firm, our services are the legal advice we provide to commercial clients. So when we think about this, we need to look at what of our services to these commercial clients might really have a positive social or environmental impact. An example is at Ashurst, we have a big impact investing practice, which is a hybrid practice of pro bono and commercial work. And actually, pro bono was a fantastic tool to really start to develop expertise in that area when it was just emerging, to build key relationships, to build a reputation as a leader in that space, which in turn has really helped in the commercial sense in the concept of shared value.